The €6 billion we spend in energy imports each year could be channelled into creating sustainable new forms of energy, thus creating jobs. The question is, how do we get there? Padraig Howard from West Clare Renewable Energy Limited has received planning permission for Ireland's first and biggest community-owned wind farm, but he cannot get grid connection.
This is some of the poorest agricultural land probably in Europe, but yet it's some of the most resource-rich land in terms of wind probably in the world. Our project is the Mount Callan Wind Farm project, which is an 87 megawatt wind farm that was granted planning permission by An Bord Pleanála recently, and will supply enough electricity to supply all the homes and businesses in County Clare. It consists of 30 farm families who have come together and pooled their land resource of 3,000 acres on the mountain and formed a commercial partnership with ourselves, West Clare Renewable Energy Limited. I passionately believe that community co-ops can come together, bring forward projects and take real ownership in them.
Tell me about the gate system.
The gate system, Duncan, is basically the grid application process. EirGrid and CER have grouped grid applications into what they call groups or gates, and we're currently in gate 3. The problem with the gate system is in this country it takes too long from application to connection. It's currently running on average at about 10 years. Unfortunately, we missed gate 3 offers by less than a week, so in theory we have to wait till beyond 2020 at the very least.
Can you wait that long? Is it going to be really difficult for you?
What we'd be hoping is that the government will fulfil on their commitments in the programme for government and deliver a new gate process. Our project can be connected at a relatively low economic cost because the existing grid infrastructure is in place. Unfortunately, by our project not getting the connection to the national grid, it means we can't go into construction. That's going to mean that there's going to be a loss in terms of carbon savings of about 2.5 million tonnes by 2024. And it also means that the county will have lost out in about €200 million worth of green electricity.
Here's a community project with full planning permission and private finance, and yet there's still bottlenecks blocking its potential to supply power to the entire county of Clare. Climate change is the single greatest environmental challenge facing the planet today. Most of our global greenhouse gas emissions come from burning fossil fuels. The atmosphere cannot continue to absorb this level of CO2, and we're already noticing the effects of these emissions on our planetary climate systems. After 2015, supplies of oil will no longer keep up with demand. We have a window of opportunity to implement change, but it's crucial that we act now. I'm here to meet Laura Burke of the EPA in Wexford to find out what Ireland is doing about climate change. So what are our targets that we've got to meet here in Ireland?
Well, at present, the target in Ireland is a 20% reduction on our greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, and that's an EU obligation that Ireland has signed up to. So it's a legally binding target that we have to meet. In addition to that, then post-2020, there will be more significant reductions, and those reductions will be up to between 80 and 95% by 2050.
So how is Ireland performing?
We're still set to exceed our annual limits as required by our European obligations by 2016. It is a particular challenge for Ireland, so it's really looking at it as a whole and having a national strategy and a national plan how Ireland Inc. reduces our emissions by 20% by 2020 and then looking further out to the 2050 period.
With so many people in Ireland so concerned about their economic situation, how critical is it for them to look at climate change also?
Actually, the economy and the environment and climate change are intrinsically linked. And what we need to see is that by reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, there's a benefit to ourselves personally and also as a society in that we're reducing costs. So for example, with regard to energy efficiency, we're actually reducing the amount of money we spend on electricity, etc. at home. So it's a win-win. We can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and also there is a cost saving there for people as well.
It's clear that if we had a long-term strategy to meet our targets, that our economy would be far more sustainable in the future. I went to meet Niall McGrath and his father from North County Dublin, who are already working in the green economy without any support. Back in 2005, Niall and Billy started Straugh's, their straw briquette business, and today it's on supermarket shelves throughout the country.
We're farming about 500 acres altogether, Duncan. We've about 20 acres of miscanthus and the rest 480 in cereal crops, mainly wheat and barley. The grain from the cereals is sold to the local grain merchant, and then we bale the straw here and bring it back to our factory here in the other farm in Weastown.
And before now you were using that straw here. Where did that go?
Some of it was sold to composters and the rest of it mainly shredded back into the ground. Then we would have been receiving roughly 20 to 25 euro a tonne for our straw to the composters. Now we can provide that same tonne of straw for heat at 180 euro a tonne.
So how many houses that are heated on oil would that be equivalent to?
Well, our 500 acres could provide enough heat, fuel heat, for 100 homes. And what we grow on our own farm, our 500 acres, we could buy in 20 times the amount of straw. That's the capability of the plant here.
So that's 2,000 homes you could heat. How many jobs could that generate in Ireland?
Nationally, if you look at the plant here, 2,000 homes, 10 jobs, 80,000 homes, 400 jobs.
Right, so that's a lot of employment.
It is, and that's only directly in the manufacturing of straw logs. If you looked at the spin-off that would entail with regards at harvest time, gathering of straw, seasonal workers, that number greatly increases.
So what's preventing you expand your business?
I suppose it's to get the concept across to the consumer, to get away from the likes of the fossil fuels, the likes of your turf and your peat and coal. It's to get the concept into people's head that carbon neutral, eco-friendly products are as good as what's out there on the market.
Could green public procurement in the state sector buy your fuel?
Of course they could. If local government or local council decided that they wanted to heat any of their buildings, be it council offices, schools, any of that area, if they decide, look, we want to turn to renewables locally sourced, we're competitive, we're half the price of oil. They're going to spend their money, keep it in the country, generate jobs.
And saving all that CO2 at the same time.
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
It is. I think it's about time that people on the ground go to these local politicians and ask the questions, what are you doing for this sector?
There are 1.6 million homes in Ireland, so taking Niall and Billy's plan to a national level has the potential of creating thousands of new jobs, reducing oil and coal imports and benefiting the environment by reducing CO2 emissions.
We've built an economic system that is ecologically irrational, in the sense that it's not attending to negative feedback mechanisms, that the planet is sending us signals that we're now reaching limits, whether it's carbon, whether it's water, whether it's arable land, and we need to actually rein in our orthodox economic growth system and start looking at evolving into a different type of economy, a green economy, one that's low carbon, one that actually attends to issues of human quality of life.
And do we need to start planning for the long term and change this short term thinking that we have at the moment?
Absolutely. Take the issue of, say, peak oil. If we want to really deal with the issue of getting ourselves off this unsustainable, non-renewable resource, it's going to take decades. So we need to be thinking decades ahead. And unfortunately, our economic system and our political system are not taking into account these decades-long, large-scale infrastructural changes we need to start doing now. These are exciting, challenging times, and they are not about going back to business as usual. We need to say, we need time to move on now to something new.
And that something new could mean jobs in energy efficiency and renewable sources. With long-term strategy and a real market incentives to stimulate these, 100,000 new jobs could be financed by totally switching from imports of oil and coal. Later in the series, we'll be in a community in Austria who have transformed their economic prospects